Hello once again, Grapple fans, and welcome to Retro Bear channel. And once again, we are doing something completely different, as the Monty Python team would say, if they could fit in here. But because of social distancing reasons, we can't have them in, just to say that. And it cost me a bloody fortune to get them to come in and say it anyway. Hello everybody, this is Retro Bear speaking to you live from the Gaming Pantry. We are on the air as recorded. And as you may have gathered by the opening introduction, the title card, the thumbnail, the t-shirt and what's on in the background, we're doing something a little different. Now, up until now, I've been very reluctant to sort of step out of a sort of a comfort zone, which has been pick-up videos. But of course, with obviously what's going on, it's been very difficult to do something like that. So at the moment, I can't, and I'm not picking anything up. So it's when I start now to look at different things that I can do. And I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. I mentioned it a few videos ago, and quite a few people expressed an interest, so much so that somebody mentioned him by name, James Kia 83, did a video about some of his wrestling memorabilia, which included games, we'll get to in a second, magazines, books, DVDs, videos, and basically inspired by myself, because I said I was going to do a VHS one. So here it is. This is what I'm going to do today, and we're going to be doing first probably maybe 2 or 3 parts. And I'll come to that, why that's in a second. There's always a story associated with this. As you know, that's why you're here. You love the stories. So I kitted out the old NWA t-shirt. This is my original NWA t-shirt, which I got from HMV back in 1998. And it's got, no, it's official. It's faded quite a bit now. I mean, it is quite an old t-shirt. It just about fits. It's actually got the copyright for WCCW on it. So, as you know, your wrestling history will know that this isn't the WWF produced one. And I wore this when I went to watch the WWE live at the NIA in 2015, I think it was. So, what else we got? We've got on the background on PlayStation 1, interesting enough, it says SmackDown 2. The box says SmackDown 1. I have no copy of SmackDown 1. I have no box of SmackDown 2. Not sure how that ended up there. But anyway, SmackDown 1, when it first came out, I actually bought it when it came out. And it was a brilliant game. I must be honest with you, I was a reasonably big fan of WWF Warzone and Raw is War on the PlayStation 1, and then that one sort of like took it to a next level, and that really sort of started where we are more or less with the wrestling games as they've evolved since then. So this is running on PlayStation 1, and it's a WWF SmackDown 2, not 1 as the box says. So yes, today, part 1 of some wrestling videos. Now, you may wish to... I'm not... Now, when James did his video, just to sort of address that, a brilliant video that it was, and as I said to him, I said I could probably sit there and talk for hours about it, but this whole wrestling thing is sort of... There's so many people I've spoken to recently who have an interest in this. Again, I think it sort of stemmed from those 90s VR videos that we sort of did. You know, everyone's favourite wrestler was a question, your favourite 90s wrestler, that was a question, and then having got talking to people like Chris, Retro 48K, Danester, James, there's a couple of people, Gernaldinho, Pete Fire too, all these guys have got, you know, whether it's the current stuff or whether it's the old stuff, have got a real sort of taste for this, and I thought, well, what a good idea to do it. James sort of beat me to the punch a little bit, but he sort of encompassed everything there. I was going to sort of do VHS. And then I realised how many VHS I'd actually got. It's quite a lot. So that's why it's going to get split into 2 parts. And then I realised, because quite some time ago I was sort of transferring my wrestling VHS to electronic file and then put him onto DVD, until it was pointed out to me by Mrs. Bear as what's the point in doing that? If you're transferring them to the hard drive, she says you may as well just leave them there. And I thought, do you know what, that makes sense, doesn't it? So there's a load of stuff that I transferred from VHS to DVD, which I still haven't got rid of. And that's quite a lot. So this video here and the next one are probably going to focus more so on the wrestling video releases that weren't pay-per-views and special events. People are not talking about, they know anything to do with that. And then I will do a special video for those tapes I've got left over. Now, with those tapes, it is going to be incredibly difficult for me not to go into detail. Yes, I know what you're thinking, another long video, or a number of long videos. These ones here, I'm going to say now, some of my memories of these are going to be very, very hazy, because I've not seen any of these tapes for years. As in watched them. I've seen them physically because they're in my front room every single day. I see them every single day. But my memories on some of these are going to be a little bit hazy. In fact, in some cases, I may not have any recollection of any of the stuff on there at all. But for you guys, you may want to see them. My journey with wrestling started back, as most people probably did, at the tail end of the 80s. Now, I was aware of the World of Sport stuff that was on a Saturday afternoon, although I wasn't a big fan of it. And then I think it was when I was at school, sort of late 80s, the advent of satellite television, which then meant that WWF went on to Sky, and there were a couple of people at school who had Sky kids. Oh, you got to watch this stuff, it's really good. And most people, oh yeah, whatever. And then you watch it once, and then for some reason you fall into two camps: the that's rubbish, or the wow, show me some more. I want to see some more. So my first taste of the sort of the WWF era was 1989 with Survivor Series, and that was sort of November time, wasn't it? No, Thanksgiving time. And that was it. I was lent a video cassette at school. I watched it a couple of times, and yeah, I was sort of hooked. And after that, I pretty much watched everything all the way through. I had to basically live off people lending me tapes because we didn't have Sky in our house. We had cable back in the 93. Was December 93 was when we had cable television finally. And I was able to start watching it on Sky on a regular basis. But until then, people had supplied me with videotapes. I'd give them a videotape. Can you take me, Wrestlemania or whatever it was? And they'd take me that and give me back, or they just lend me tapes that were going around. And then I used to buy my own. Used to buy my own tapes. So some of these tapes, possibly, may be the ones I had originally. Now I did have tapes originally, and I sold them. And then I started buying them again when, if you remember the court case with the new logo that came out in 2003, where they had the scratch logo and the whole lawsuit with the World Wildlife Fund. And all of a sudden this sort of stuff started getting quite rare because they couldn't release it with the old logos on. They'd have to blur them out. And you can see them now in some of the stuff, the blurring. And I know it's sort of changed slightly since then, but there was a real sort of scramble for some of this stuff. And I know some of the stuff went really pricey really quickly. I sold a couple of DVDs back in the mid 2000s, late 2000s I think it was, mid to late 2000s. NWO Back in Black, which was a WWE DVD, the Wrestlemania 2000 double disc box set as well. I sold both those two for about 40 to 45 quid each, because they just shot up in value. There's a couple I missed out on as well, which I sort of picked up, and I sold those and obviously made some decent money on them. But they were very much in demand. You put those on, and then all of a sudden I think everything sort of changed. And some of it, I don't know whether there's any value to it or not now, but some of these things you may or may not be able to see again. The reason I've held on to a lot of this stuff is because this is the stuff which isn't going to get thrown onto the WWE network. I know some of it has. I know they've started putting a section in for exclusive home videos and things like that, but some of this stuff here is not going to be released in this form and may never be seen again in the compilation likely. So we'll see how we get on. Like I said, this is a real mixture of stuff. There's 2 boxes of this. Once I've done those 2 boxes, then we'll get on to the other stuff. But I don't know how long this is going to take. This could take forever. It really could. Right, where should we start? There's a lot longer story about me getting into wrestling, but I'm not going to tell it now because I don't want to sort of put people off too much, because this is going to be the same sort of retro best stuff. It's just going to be me whittering on. I mean, if I was starting to go into sort of great depth about some of these things, we could be here for weeks. Honestly, weeks. Weeks, I tell you. Damn it. Right, so let's start off with this one then. So I don't even know why I got this one, because I'm not a particularly big fan of this guy. This is Uzi Machismo, Razor Ramon. The compilation of his best stuff. Not the greatest condition video. I can't even tell you where I probably got this from. Probably a car boot, I'm guessing. I'm not sure why I would have got this, because I was never a massive fan of Razor Ramon. I'll show you the inside, because I have looked at some of these. And as you can see there, there's some advertisements. Also, for those who do collect these sort of things, remember the old blue tape cover in there as well, which was Silvervision's way of ensuring that you got a proper official copy. Copyright protection or something like that. I don't know. So this is a 2-hour video cassette. So you've got Razor Ramon against Rick Martel, Adam Bomb, Crush, Jeff Jarrett, Yokozuna and Bam Bam Bigelow. And special tough guy interview, Razor talks about the ladder match against Shawn Michaels and the WrestleMania 10 matches included as well, which is an all-time classic. Yeah, not my favourite. To be honest with Scott Hall, I could... It tended to be... You do find some of the guys just be a little bit over the top in terms of their acting and the mannerisms they put on in the ring, and you know, some of them are great technical guys. I always thought Mr. Perfect was a great technical guy, but sometimes he's selling the stuff, and the same with Shawn Michaels as well, a bit too much over the top. He was very much like that. But he was alright, I suppose. There were a lot worse people. Speaking of Shawn Michaels, I know quite a few people are big fans of him. I'm never a Shawn Michaels guy. That's probably one of the reasons why. Shawn Michaels' best hits from the Heartbreak Kid. A video tribute. Lovely. 56 minutes long. That's a really rubbish tribute in my book. 56 minutes. Again, just checking on the inside. I'm just checking for tape rot on some of these, and I can happily say that most of these tapes appear to be surviving intact, which is brilliant. I'm looking for any sort of markings on the tape, any signs of mould or anything like that. Nothing there. So there's the back of the box. You can see Shawn there throwing... I can't even see who that is. Looks like it's Razor, actually. Looks like it's Razor Ramon over the top rope. And it says on here, ladder match against Razor Ramon. So that could be the WrestleMania one. It could be the one they had at SummerSlam the year after, I think it was. Was it the year after or the summer? I can't remember. And then plus matches against Owen Hart, Yokozuna and Tatanka. Buffalo. Exclusive highlights of Shawn winning the 1996 Royal Rumble. But, I don't know, never one of my favourite wrestlers, I'm afraid. Which will try to explain why I've now got another Shawn Michaels video, which is the Heartbreak Express Tour. Was that like the Lex Express? I had no idea, possibly. The most flamboyant superstar in the World Wrestling Federation. Well, I'm sure that's up against some pretty stiff competition. And again, this one looks in good. You can see I've started to watch that one and given up on it. More advertising on the inside. So this one's 2 hours long, so thankfully a bit more effort, a bit more of a tribute. This one does say this is see there it says leader of the new generation. Remember that was when they were trying to portray the WWF as this exciting, vibrant place where new wrestlers were given their chance to promote, unlike WCW where they were intent on bringing in Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and portraying Ric Flair as a main eventer and all this business. And they had people like British Bulldog had been around for a good number of years, and Bob Backlund pushing these guys as their top men. Been around as long as the other guys had been. See the dreams of a 12-year-old boy become one man's destiny as the leader of the new generation battles his toughest opponents. Well, excuse me if I don't vomit all over the back of this because it sounds horrible. Superstar Shawn Michaels has been featured in Playgirl magazine. Notice Playgirl. And has appeared on the hit series Baywatch. Didn't everybody back in the 90s? I was asked to appear in Baywatch once. Shawn Michaels got a toe-to-toe his toughest competition in the World Wrestling Federation as he battles Bret the Hitman Hart, the British Bulldog, Vader, Mankind and Psycho Sid. Yeah. $12.99, you might notice that. $12.99 W.H. Smith. I did not pay $12.99 for it. This has come out of a car boot or something else. I can't remember if James put this in his video. I was surprised I got this. I wasn't really collecting wrestling VHS. This is The Rock, Know Your Role. Again, nice condition. He laid the smackdown. He's been both the People's and the Corporate Champion, so I'm guessing this is going to be sort of 1999. Doesn't say who he's up against. 79 minutes long. Standard Rock stuff, I expect. But again, I wasn't a big fan of The Rock when he first came on the scene. Like a lot of people just didn't like him. And when he turned sort of heel, he's one of these sort of heels I look at and go, you're trying to be hard and act all act like a bit like a twat, but in reality, I'm not buying it. And it probably wasn't until much later on that you could actually buy into the persona. But some people try and be a bad guy, and it just comes across as really rubbish, like him. Now, friend of the show, the Hulkster, Hulkamania Forever. Now, if this is my original copy of the video, I bought this from a John Menzies in Durham, I think, when I was on holiday there. And the last holiday I took my family back in 1993. If that is the original copy, I am not sure. I can't guarantee that. However, this contains 2 hours of exclusive action, exclusive footage from Hulk's latest movie, Suburban Commando. That's a really funny bit when Mean Gene goes on the set of Suburban Commando, and it's really funny because when he goes to talk to Hogan about how the film is going and all that, Hogan immediately launches into a Hulk Hogan promo. Whereas you thought he might just sit there and say, well, you know something, Gene. He said, you know, being an actor is a bit different. But he's like, you know something, Mean Gene. And he was straight into it. And it's like, what? How many walls have we just broken down doing this? You know, but yeah. It's the darndest thing. That one's in good nick as well. It's lovely. I'm really impressed that these have actually survived the test of time. Because I want to keep these. We'll find something to keep. And there's the back of it there. See, Hulks are using a 2x4 on Dino Bravo. And there's also a picture of him against the Macho Man and also Earthquake. So this one here, an exciting and intriguing look at the world of Hulkamania. Wow. Video exclusive matches, Hogan against Ted DiBiase, The Genius. And that's from Saturday night's main event. If you've not seen that match, it's worth watching. I don't know, just from a complete curiosity point of view. I won't tell you what happens. Macho King Randy Savage, Earthquake, and the Ultimate Warrior. Now, if the Ultimate Warrior match on there it's from Wrestlemania 6. It's the only time they fought in WWF, so that's the only time they can do it. And never before seen exclusive, earth-shaking, edge-of-your-seat tag team match as Hulk Hogan and Tugboat take on Earthquake and Dino Bravo. Yeah, that's really selling the tape to me, that one is. But yeah, I watched that quite a bit. That was it's quite a good one, that one. So much so that they brought out another one, which was called The Power of Hulkamania. If Hulkamania Forever wasn't enough, Power of Hulkamania is to enforce that. An American superhero, 2 hours of action. It's actually noticed there, it's called the box says Hulkamania 6. And that's really going to confuse everybody because, to the best of my knowledge, there were only 4 videos. In tribute to the Horseman. 4 videos that came out with Hogan devoted entirely to Hulk Hogan. This one, the one I've just shown you before, and 2 I'm going to show you in a minute. Now, Hulkamania 6, that is relating to the American series because there were a number of, obviously there were 6 Hulkamania videos. So, because I used to sometimes look at buying in America videos from America, because at one point it was quite cheap. When I think the exchange rate was like something stupid, like I think it was like $1 to $1.50 or something like that. It was ridiculously stupid to buy stuff in from the United States, and I did. And I don't think I've got any of those tapes now. I've got Hacksaw Jim Duggan one. I've got one left. I know I've got one left because that's in the other box. Got one left, but it was quite cheap to get them in. But there were different sort of Hulkamania videos, and you also found things like Saturday Night's Main Event video, which came out over here, was the second one in the series. The first one was shot from a much earlier part of that run, which wasn't released over here. So anyway, complicated. So what we got on this one then? More Suburban Commando film clips and another exclusive interview. Millions of fans are caught in the grip of Hulkamania. This is going to be around about 1991, so we are pushing this American stuff down here. He's got Sergeant Slaughter, of course, on the other side, which he's got in the chin lock. Actually, he's got him in the camel clutch there, which is really strange because that's not his move. How does he know how to do that? Yeah, Hulk Hogan batters his most fearsome opponents, such as Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan. Who wanted to see it? The Undertaker. Okay, well, so The Undertaker could be two matches from that. Watch Hulk if you've never seen him before in a special segment, Hulk Hogan's USO tour. So he's going to visit the troops, and if things weren't bad enough, Hogan drops into town, and yeah, been a bit hard there on Hogan. It's out the front. Hulk Hogan vs Undertaker. Oh yeah, now exclusive match from Japan. I'll get that in a second. And then there's a tag team exclusive match: Hulk and Hacksaw Jim Duggan against Sergeant Slaughter and Colonel Mustafa. That's probably coming from, again, maybe House Show at Madison Square Garden. But this one, this match from Japan, I've mentioned to a few people already. This is the videotape. If you want to find that match, Hulk Hogan versus Cowboy. He's billed here as Cowboy Stan Hansen, mostly known as Stan the Man Hansen. Incredibly tough guy from Texas who spent most of his career working in Japan. And also he had a brief run as US champion in WCW towards the end of 1990. And he's just a big, hulking brute of a guy. And it's an absolute fight from start to finish. And I believe they're both split open during this match. He's got a PG on it. But yeah, this is the match. So I spoke to a couple of people about it. Said that match between Hogan and Stan Hansen, you've got to try and track it down. It's on this video, Power of Hulkamania. Go and track it down. It's worth it just for that. I'm sure you pay pence for it nowadays. It's worth it to have that match. So those were some there. Now, when I first started collecting WWF videos, they released initially some collector's series tapes. And I think the first releases were these three, which I'm going to show you now, and also SummerSlam 88. And this was the first time they put tapes out in the UK for fans to pick up. So the first one here is Hulk Hogan, Real American. Now these are basically short tapes. They're about an hour long. They cram as much in they can for about an hour. That's all you get in, and you're paying sort of 10 quid. And then they change the VAT for some reason, and I end up paying £10.25 for one of these. I'll show you that in a minute as well. So this is basically your standard sort of Hogan video or tribute video with 4 matches on the back. I'll show you that there. See Hogan against the $1 Million Man. So you got Hulk Hogan going against his deadliest enemies, which is Andre the Giant. Now that could be any one of about 4 or 5 matches. Again, I can't remember what it was. Nikolai Volkov, King Haku. So that is probably going to be coming from late 80s, late 88, early 89, when Haku had the crown, which he was given when Harley Race was injured. Again, this means probably nothing to most people. And also the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, which is on the back there. Plus a musical tribute to Hulk, an inside look at Hulk's workout regimen, and much more. Now, interesting to know about that musical tribute, I do recall, that's actually set to a sort of a remix of Jake the Snake's old theme tune as well. Really weird, because obviously Jake the Snake had his theme tune by that point. This one focuses on the first 4 WrestleManias. It's called WrestleMania's Greatest Matches, and it is undoubtedly a very misleading title, because I wouldn't sort of put any of these matches into that bracket. I think possibly only one of them's got the claim to be the best match at that WrestleMania. You'll see there's a Battle Royal on the front. That's from WrestleMania 2. I'm just trying to find a picture of Bruno Sammartino on the front of that there. Yeah, Bruno Sammartino is there. Interesting fact about Bruno Sammartino and this video. Because he'd fallen out with the WWF at this point when this video came out, all references to Bruno Sammartino were cut out of this video release. So they don't even mention him at all. In fact, I think there's a point where he throws somebody out and they don't even remark on it. You can see the crowd reacting, but they makes no mention of it, or the fact he was thrown out. He's there. They can't take him out of the match. They just don't mention him. Very strange business, wrestling. You may get into it. It's like that. So what have we got on the back here? There's a list of the matches and a picture of Brutus the Bob Beefcake and Honky Tonk Man, which I think most people recognise with WrestleMania. That is. What's the inside of it looking like? Yeah, it's a bit of a. There's actually some scratching there on the cover. That's not the tape itself. The tape itself is fine. I didn't show you the inside of the Hogan one, but I don't need to, because I had to check that the other day. It seems all right. So WrestleMania 1, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Marty Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, with Muhammad Ali as guest referee. Probably the best match on the WrestleMania 1 card, so I can't argue with that. WrestleMania 2, the 20-man over-the-top Battle Royal, which we're seeing there. Hard to tell which is WrestleMania 2's best match, because they were mostly pretty terrible. I'd probably put the Battle Royal in there, up there with the tag match between Tito Santana and the Junkyard Dog and the Funk Brothers, and possibly the Hogan main event, but there wasn't. The British Bulldogs Dream Team match, the tag team match, probably was the best match on that card. Yeah, 3 of them, but WrestleMania 3, Hart Foundation and Dangerous Danny Davis take on the Bulldogs and Tito Santana in a 6-man tag team bout. Again, not the greatest match on that card, but Danny Davis does a really, really good job of getting an absolute beating in that match. And then finally, WrestleMania 4 between Brutus the Barber Beefcake and the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental Championship. Again, hard to know what was the best match on that card because they were all terrible. Everyone hates WrestleMania 4. I've rewatched WrestleMania 4. It's a pretty dull show. I'll give you that. This one was the third video that came out at the time. Again, this one may possibly be a couple of signs of markings on the tape. On this one, this is High Flyers. Maybe it's a little bit of sign on there. Maybe that's a bit of grade. Not to worry, because it's a shit tape anyway. Again, not one of my favourite tapes. Featuring high flying action, 60 minutes, featuring Randy Savage, the Young Stallions, the Jumping Bomb Angels, the Blue Blazer, the Rockers, and many more. That's actually lying. There's not many more than that. What you're getting on, if I remember correctly, you're getting a match between Macho Man Randy Savage when he was the champion just after WrestleMania 4 against the $1 Million Man's bodyguard Virgil in a match which was taken from Superstars of Wrestling. You've got a match between the Jumping Bomb Angels and the Glamour Girls from one of the house shows. If you've never seen the Jumping Bomb Angels, a Japanese women's tag team from the late 80s, absolutely brilliant. And the matches they had with the Glamour Girls, Judy Martin and Leilani Kai, were pretty good. They were pretty good. Probably the only tag team in that division. It makes some sense. Why do they have a tag team women's championship? But I don't know. But the Jumping Bomb Angels, worth tracking down for watching that. The Blue Blazer and Coco Beware team up at the end of the tape against a couple of unknowns. It's a really random tape. Don't, unless you're a completist. This is one I had to pay 10 when the VAT changed. And everything went from being $9.99 to £10.24. This was my first. This was the first wrestling tape I purchased myself. It may not be the original copy. I don't think it is. This is Hulkamania. I know it's not the original copy because I just put inlay cards in as to what matches people could expect to see. I don't think. Now again, just markings on the plastic case in there, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that one. This is again standard Hogan fare. And again, really random selection matches. Hogan against the Macho King Randy Savage between WrestleMania 5 and SummerSlam 89. He's then got to we go back in time to a match between Greg the Hammer Valentine and Hogan from probably 1986. Hogan's actually wearing white trunks and white boots in that match. Then we fast forward again to Madison Square Garden and watch Hulk Hogan against the Big Boss Man in a brutal cage match. I had a match on Saturday night's main event. That one is much better. This is a much better match than that one. And it finished off with the WrestleMania 3 match against Andre the Giant, which, you know, is there for posterity. People don't think it's a good match. You know, in terms of match, it's a -5 stars. In terms of its importance in the wrestling industry, it's a +5 stars. It shows they can put 80,000 people in the stadium. Yeah, so it's not a bad tape. It's not great. Interesting, there's a picture of Hulk Hogan against $1 Million Man on the side. Doesn't even fight on this video. So we move from the Hulkster to the Ultimate Warrior. Loads of people love the Ultimate Warrior thing, so they changed sort of the VAT out, £10.99. I didn't have this one originally. Loads of people like the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, in terms of an individual, the charisma and the sort of excitement he can generate, absolutely nobody else like him. But the number of people he screwed throughout his time in wrestling is on the top of that video. As a wrestler, I was never particularly taken by him. That sounds quite rude, doesn't it? I wasn't overly. I wasn't a massive Warrior fan like some people were. What we got on this tape? Hulk Hogan. Warrior against Andre the Giant. Now, they had a series of matches where Andre was basically being beaten in seconds. This isn't one of them. This actually goes on a little bit longer. Rick Rude against the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, they had a tremendous feud in 1989 and again in 1990. Ultimate Warrior against Haku, which I think came from Primetime Wrestling. And it's going to be around about that mid-89 time. There should be more than 3 matches on there. There are, but it doesn't tell me which one, and I can't remember which one's the 4th one. There's usually 4 or 5 on these, so you can guarantee good value for money. These $10.99 cheap tapes, hour long, you get some decent action. This is one of my favourites, Wrestling Superheroes. I love this tape when I finally got hold of it. I can't remember why I liked it so much. I don't think it was particularly outstanding, but it just gives me a sort of look at it and think, oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, that pitch there back, Demolition against the Powers of Pain, that match is on here. That was from a television tape, and I think it came from prime time as well. Hulk Hogan against Hercules, which I think came from sort of the mid-80s, sorry, mid to late 80s. Ultimate Warrior against the Macho King Randy Savage. Now, let's hope it's not that match from Saturday night's main event, which was a complete waste of time. I don't know, I can't remember. And Demolition against the Powers of Pain, and there's another match on here as well. But I remember that being a good tape. I really enjoyed that one. I can't remember what's on it though. Now, it's something I am fully schooled in. Saturday night's main event. Man, I used to love this show. I've got all the episodes now digitally, which is brilliant. I've been going through those again quite recently. Interesting story about this tape, although this isn't the copy that I had originally. I bought my copy of Saturday Night's Main Event the week it came out in Hounslow, down in the south of England. I mean, because I have family. My mum was from down that part of the world. My nan used to live down there, so during the school holidays, we'd go down and spend a week or a few days down there or so. When I picked that up in Hounslow, not this particular one though. And this is highlights from Saturday Night's Main Event from sort of like fall of '88 through to early part of '89. So you got Hulk Hogan against the Big Boss Man in the steel cage, which is the match they were doing around the horn on the video show I did earlier. Matchman Randy Savage against Andre the Giant. The Red Rooster against Tito Santana. Don't get too discouraged by that because it's actually a storyline progression and it's quite fun. And the Rockers against the Brainbusters. Quality matches. Also, don't you say Bruce Bob Beefcake is shaving off the head of Outlaw Ron Bass? Well, that's a match on this tape. Yeah, this is. I think there's also. Is there a Brother Love segment with Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man as well? Desperately trying to remember. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And this was a great tape. If you couldn't get Saturday Night's Main Event, you couldn't get access to it. I used to think it was on every Saturday, because it was on 5 times a year. And in America, they used to broadcast it after. They used to put, was it Saturday Night Live on in America? That used to start about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the evening. It used to run for an hour or so. So this would go on about midnight and after in America as its first broadcast. I can't understand why. Well, you want to stick that in prime time somewhere, but that's how American television works. What's next? British Bulldogs. This was the capitalising the British Bulldog going back into the WWF at the tail end of 1990. So they re-released an old video with the British Bulldog tag team. So those of you expecting to see sort of like current British Bulldogs action, probably a little disappointed. And I've got to say, I am not very hopeful on that tape. That's looking a bit rough, that one. You can't see that, but I'm just looking at it there, and I think possibly that one may have already gone. That's disappointing. So what we got here? So long list of matches. A friend of mine had this. I can't remember. We bought a tape each. I bought one, and he bought this one. And he's still convinced he had the best deal on it. So the British Bulldogs taking on King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd. The WrestleMania 2 tag match I alluded to earlier between the Bulldogs and the Dream Team. The Bulldogs against the Moondogs. And then the individual matches, the British Bulldog taking on Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And the Dynamite Kid taking on Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, if you know anything about your wrestling, that match really should excite you in so many ways that is not known humanly possible. And also look at the Bulldogs in training. This sort of covers the sort of 85-86 period. So if you were being brought up in 89 WWF, this would probably look a bit weird to you. Because I always just think of anything that looks sort of like before 1987 looks a bit strange to stuff that looked, 1985 stuff looks a bit strange, stuff that came out in 1987 and looks completely alien to how it looked in 89. How things sort of change so quickly, I don't know. 60 action-packed minutes, this is greatest hits. You'll notice you've got Mr. Perfect and the Texas Tornado on the front. And on the back you've got Hulk Hogan and Tugboat and I think that's Greg the Hammer Valentine's backside. That one looks right, shade inside of that. I'll just talk about that Bulldogs video. What have we got on this one? Hulk Hogan and Tugboat take on Rhythm and Blues. And then gives away the ending because it tells you who runs in, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. The Ultimate Warrior against $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Texas Tornado defending his Intercontinental Championship against Mr. Perfect. So that is going to be somewhere between SummerSlam 90 and October 1990 before Survivor Series. That's when the belt changed hands. So it might be the changing of the title, I don't know. And then a high-flying, fast high-flying, fast-paced look at this year's best blows called Grand Slams. That would be, again, 1990. Don't remember much about that one. British Bulldog, of course, went back to WWF. This is a video which was brought out not long after he arrived. A very short video, it's a 60-minute video. He went back looking bigger than he did originally. Again, I think there's maybe plastic markings there on the tape. Not too bad, that one. So British Bulldog in his most exciting matches against Rick Martel, Shawn Michaels, oh, that'd be quite interesting. The Warlord, Erwin R. Shyster, the tax collector, and Earthquake. British Bulldog against Earthquake. Wow, that's a power versus power matchup. The immovable force meeting the invisible force meeting the immovable object. The ring specially being reinforced for that particular match. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think I watched that one. I was, again, not a particularly big Davey Boy Smith fan. WWF's funniest moments, which always guarantees not going to be funny in the slightest. It's got the bushwhackers on the front. I'm laughing already. Actually, I watched this once. I don't think it was particularly terrible. What have we got? Gobby the Gooker's on the back. If I remember, this video's got about a 5-minute segment where he gets introduced to the crowd and he comes out and dances around the ring, and then they go to another segment where they bring him out and he dances around the ring. I think the third segment, by which point you just the knitting needles are sort of there, and you're just dying to push it in to make it stop. Watch the Ultimate Warrior's reaction when Brother Love predicts the end of his career. That's quite funny, actually. If you've not seen that one, that's worth tracking down. You can probably get an idea what happens on the back of the cover there as well. You'll howl for more as the Bushwhackers stomp and whack their way through Greg the Hammer Valentine and the Honky Tonk Man. I'm laughing already, I told you. What makes a former corrections officer laugh? A pathetic apology from Bobby the Brain Heenan. Don't badmouth the big boss man's mama. Remember that as well? That's on here. And plus Playboy Buddy Rose's blowaway diet. Wow. 60 minutes long. I mean, is that long enough? Is it too long? Who knows? Another Ultimate Warrior video, the return of the Ultimate Warrior. This was brought out when he came back to the WWF in 1992 at WrestleMania 8 when he ran in. I'm sorry if I spoilt the ending for you there, but come on, that was nearly 30 years ago now. They experienced the awesome power of the Ultimate Warrior. This was his second stint in the WWF. Again, that tape seems to be in fairly good condition. And then rewound, something to take care of. From Parts Unknown. Watch the Ultimate Warrior battle Hulk Hogan again. How many more times they put Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior on these videos? Papa Shango, Skinner, and Nasty Boy Brian Knobbs. It's a stellar lineup. You can't argue with that. Are you prepared to face the Ultimate Warrior? Yes. Give him some decent opponents instead. Look at the colour of him on that one as well. Colour of them compared to the back of that. That's the Ultimate Warrior. And that's the Ultimate Warrior. This one, Collector Series. Now, if you were very lucky, you could find this for quite cheap. They actually re-released it on the budget label. So a lot of this stuff used to cost sort of like, say, $10.99. This one, I think they re-released at $4.99. And I think eventually they did the same with the Hulk Hogan Real American, the High Flyers, and the Greatest Matches. They all came out a little bit cheaper eventually. Best of the Steel, Greatest Steel Cage matches with the Hulkster on the front eating one of those blue bars. I used to love those blue bar cages. Why don't they do those anymore? I used to love them. What have we got on this one? Tape is in good condition. Lovely. Greatest cage matches. I love a cage match. Cage match used to be the be-all end of it. You're going to stick somebody in a cage, that was it. They really hated each other, and you're looking to bring this thing to an end. See Hulk Hogan going against the Big Boss Man. So that could be, again, that match from earlier. It could be the match from Saturday night's main event. Macho Man Randy Savage battled Ted DiBiase. Now, I read somewhere there was a match on possibly one of the Savage DVDs that came out of a match against $1 Million Man in a cage. It was brilliant. It may be this one. I don't know. A Super Six-Man tag team match, the Hart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man. So this was before the Hart Foundation stopped being bad guys, and they're taking on the Macho Man and Strike Force. And I remember that is a pretty good match as well, inside a cage. Really, really good. The crowd is really excited for that match. And there's another match on there as well, which I can't remember at the moment. That's 55 minutes long. Yeah, that Hogan Bossman
graphic there says Saturday Night's Main Event in the background, so it could be for that particular card.